Good Tuesday morning to each and every one of you. Good morning, good morning. Hold on. Good morning, good morning. I tell all of the things that take me. Good morning. You see, I could do it both ways. Good morning, everybody. Waggo. Big up the posse. What up? West side. Okay. Get it together, Blossom. Let's do this. Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, PT, Martinique. A special good morning to each and every one of you tuned into Good Morning Grenada on this terrific Tuesday morning. It is the 16th day of February 2021. Happy to have you joining us, the folks on the GBN Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11, and 20. Good morning to the folks listening to Classic 105.5, 105.9, Hot 98.5, 98.7, and the viewers on the Go To Fets Facebook page, Party Grenada's Facebook page, and the Party Grenada website. Good morning, everybody. To the folks joining us across the Caribbean, whichever part of the region you are, or the islands, spicy 473 Grenadian morning to you. And to the folks locked on internationally, good morning, good afternoon, good night. Hope you will have a good day, are having a good day, have had a good day. No sticking this morning. Let's get right into this morning's word of the day. This morning's word of the day is underwhelm. 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 It's a verb which means to fail to impress or stimulate. Overwhelm and its rest synonym whelm have both been around since the Middle Ages, but underwhelm is a 20th century coinage. Both overwhelm and whelm are derived from the Middle English whelman, which is perhaps an alteration of the word which means to turn over or to cover up. Underwhelm is a playful overturning of overwhelm, well suited for describing the unimpressive. More than one person claims the distinction of having invented the word. Several sources attribute it to the playwright George Kaufman, but sports columnist Red Smith is quoted as believing he coined the word himself, and still other sources cite other potential creators. Chances are that the word was in fact coined by more than one inventive writer. Word of the day this morning is underwhelm, UNDERWHELM, a verb which means to fail to impress or stimulate. An example of the use of the word: his short stints continue to underwhelm. Another example of the use of the word: she underwhelmed in 2019, leaving out after a dynamic start in Detroit, which earned her an all-star honor. Word of the day is underwhelm, UNDERWHELM, a verb which means to fail to impress or stimulate. And getting right into the thought of the day as you go about your terrific, tantalizing Tuesday. The thought of the day is: don't wait for good days to come, make your days good. Don't wait for good days to come, make your days good. Don't sit back and expect the day to change. Don't sit back and expect fancy things to take place. Don't sit back and expect the blessings to just keep flowing and you're not doing anything to help it come along. Make your days good. Do your best to make your days good. Look for the bright spot in every day. Do things that would make you happy. Stay away from the things that would make you angry or upset, sad, depressed. Don't wait for the good days to come. Make your days good. Take it into your own hands and make your day good. Let's see. Today, Tuesday, February... Blossom inside. Tuesday, February 16th, 2021. Today, it is Pancake Day. Pancake Day. I'm already dribbling. All right, let's try this. Pancake Day. The key ingredient to the perfect breakfast. Get yourself a mouth-watering stack toward heaven because it's Pancake Day. Observed annually in the spring, and since beginning its first celebration in 2006, the International House of Pancakes, IHOP, have raised over $30 million to support charities in the communities in which they operate. Today it is... If I had to check out, I eat pancake this morning. Don't worry. Supper. I will kill it later. I have to celebrate. I can't tell all you what today is and not celebrate it. I'll sacrifice the diet. I'll sacrifice the diet to celebrate and commemorate Pancake Day. Later mashup. Yep. Don't worry, I have pancake mix in my cupboard. Don't try to tie me up. There we go. Information time as we celebrate Pancake Day. I'm thinking about all the fancy things I'm putting on it later. Lord's help me. Let me go. Today, today's Tuesday, which is usually post-cabinet briefing day. However, a notice from Government Information Service issued yesterday advised there will be no post-cabinet briefing today because there is a special joint sitting of the Houses of Parliament today to celebrate the life of former parliamentarian Honorable Elvin Nimrod, who passed away recently. I believe it was on the 6th of February. The joint sitting will be broadcast from 9 a.m. Of course, us here at the GBN Classic FM, we will be carrying the proceedings, which means there will be no To The Point program as we all come together to celebrate and commemorate the life of the late Honorable Elvin Nimrod. In that light, the program that we had originally planned for To The Point will now be held in Good Morning Grenada. So at 7:15 a.m., which is in just about half an hour, economist Dr. Patrick Antoine is expected to join me on the program, and we are discussing the ripple effect of the increase in animal feed and flour. So again, there's no post-cabinet briefing today, Tuesday, because there's a joint sitting of Parliament from 9 a.m., and the sitting will be carried on GBN channel 7, 11 and 20, as well as Classic FM, which means there's no To The Point. However, our To The Point guest, so we'll call it Good Morning Point. From 7:15, Dr. Patrick Antoine will join me to discuss the increase in animal feed and flour and the ripple effect that we can expect economically for us consumers. So stay tuned to Classic and GBN. There's no other place to go. This is where you're getting everything that you need. And this afternoon, 1:30 p.m., Super 50 cricket action continues. Some Grenadians will be in action as the Windward Island Volcanoes take on the Jamaica Scorpions. The Volcanoes team lost. I don't want to name them and miss out, but from what I could remember off the top of my head, the Grenadians on the team include Andre Fletcher, Preston McSween, Roland Cato, Emmanuel Stewart, Ryan John. You go, girlfriend. And former player on the team, Grenada's Devon Smith, is the assistant coach for the squad. So we shine in bright 473, 1:30 p.m. The game will be carried live on Classic FM. 1:30, Windward Island Volcanoes against the Jamaica Scorpions. All right, let's get right into the news this morning. Remember, coming up in just about half an hour, we discuss the economic fallout from the increase in animal feed and flour, which took effect yesterday. This is Good Morning Grenada. Let's get ready for the morning edition of news and repeat of last evening's newscast. Stick and stay. We will be right back.
Finally, after 10 years, there is a breakthrough in the death of Derek John of Bolio, St. George, and an arrest made. But while family members are finally seeing some sign of justice, they are not too pleased with the Royal Grenada Police Force. They expressed their feelings to GBN's Chrislina John. Details in this report.
Andre John has been arrested and charged for the 2011 death of 51-year-old Derek John of Bolio, St. George. He was slapped with a charge of manslaughter by negligence on Friday. Andre made his first court appearance on Monday at the St. George's No. 1 Magistrate Court and was placed on $3,000 bail with 2 sureties. GBN spoke with daughter of the deceased, Anika Charles. Charles says they should not have to find out, by the way, that an arrest was made in relation to father's death. She believes they should have been contacted directly as soon as this was done, but this was not the case.
With the way how the police force handled the matter with us, because yes, we know that this happened 10 years ago, since 2010, December 3rd. Nothing came out of it because they didn't find no weapon or no witness or anything. Out of the blues, just weekend, Friday actually, we hear like rumors on the street that, oh, they found the person that killed our father. The thing that really hurt is that since Friday, all they pick up that person, Once you all charge somebody, then all you're supposed to call the family and let us know. Even if after 10 years all they don't have like a contact number for us, we still live the same place. It have means all so you could get us. Because
she explained that she was a teenager when her father died, however recalls the day he was found.
They found him in Melrose, that's in Boca, lying on the side of the road with a stab wound to the chest. No blood, anything, no weapon wasn't found, just a bun, like bun from the front to the back, pierced through. That's all they found with him.
Charles says what is painful is the fact that the accused lived nearby where the body was found. Said nothing for 10 years. According to unconfirmed reports reaching GBN, the accused attempted suicide around the time of his arrest and was taken to the Mungay Psychiatric Hospital for evaluation before being brought to court.
And the thing that hurt us, he lived right next to where they find our father's body, a stone throw right there. He was right there. He'll pick up our garbage and he passed and talked to us every day like 10 years as normal, and you holding that for 10 years that you take our father from us. That's not right. It was like it now happened. Accident happen all the time. You could have just come clear at the time when it happened and just say it was an accident. We don't understand that, but 10 years now.
Head of the Community Relations Department, Superintendent Vannie Kerwin, credits the cold case unit for the breakthrough in this case, but did not divulge any details surrounding the arrests. Chrislina John, GBN News.
It was the unavailability of files that forced the first adjournment of the assault matter involving Evan Smith, Sarah Hatton, and Donald Kavanaugh back in 2020. The hearing set for today, February 15th, 2021, was again hindered, this time due to a late turnover of case files. And this is not balancing well for the Smiths. Here's Chrislina John with more.
All parties were present for the start of today's hearing at the St. George's No. 1 Court. However, 8 months after the first adjournment, the case between Evan Smith, Sarah Hatton, and Donald Kavanaugh is yet to get off the ground. The defense blames the prosecution for not having the case files ready in time for the commencement of the matter. According to the defense lawyer, Arlie Gill, disclosure was only made available on Monday, February 15th, the morning of the second hearing, which did not allow adequate time in which to go through its contents. Smith was allegedly assaulted by an Irish couple in Fort Judy last June. The Kavanaughs were placed on $10,000 bail each. The matter was adjourned to July 26th. Nicole Smith, wife of the complainant Evan Smith, walked away furious at the police stance in the matter. She intends to take her complaint to the Office of the Commissioner of Police. She spoke to the media after today's court appearance.
I'm disappointed. I'm angry again. To hear the nonsense, I'm calling it nonsense. I don't have a better word right now to say what have transpired today again. I'm telling you, I'm calling on the commissioner to hear such this is a disrespect to us as the Smith family. Every time you go to the court, they are not prepared. It's either the file is not bring to them, it is, like it's just slipping through the crack. And this is not acceptable. It was wrong. And to see that over a year, and the police force who was saying that they're representing us, I don't think they're doing the right job, so I think I have to do what I have to do. I will do what I have to do. If the police cannot represent me, and this shows that it brings a bad impact, it shows a bad image of the Royal Grenada Police Force on the whole, and Mr. Commissioner is showing a bad impact on you too. And I will be visiting your office. I'm very angry for the nonsense that I have heard inside the court today.
Smith has no legal representation in court on Monday. Mrs. Smith explained why.
So, but when I asked, I did call the same very inspector concerning for who's representing us really because of what took place the last time. He said there's no need for me to get a lawyer. I said, man, there's no need to get a lawyer because from the very inception of the incident, I saw that there was nobody came in defendant of us. So I said, I think we need to get a lawyer. He told me there was no need. But based on what I'm seeing here, I need to find a lawyer because they are not in my interest. We're 4 persons, not one, 4 persons. I have never heard about any local Grenadians whether you're black, white, Portuguese, or what, I've 4 or 5 persons, I've came on one person of what the message that Sir Argyle was speaking about. I have never heard about that. But we are not speaking about those things. We are speaking about the incident that we went to court for. My husband, he could not have defended himself. Isn't there a voice in Grenada for people who cannot defend themselves?
She says her husband's health has been badly affected by this ordeal.
This case is on him all the time. It's affecting his health. And then to come and sit in court to hear this sort of thing, what do you expect? He's already, come on, for over a year. This is not a big drug deal or a big murder case. Why is it got to be prolonging like this? Why is it? It's either when you go to court, the file is not there, or the defendant lawyer had to travel on a whole bundle of nonsense.
Christina John, GBN News.
The traffic department of the Royal Grenada Police Force recorded more than 20 accidents from Friday to Sunday, which resulted in one individual admitted to the General Hospital in critical condition. More in this report.
Head of the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force, Superintendent Randy Connaught, says if it was not for wearing a seatbelt, entertainer Micaiah Williams will be nursing more critical injuries to his body. Williams was involved in a major accident Sunday night, which occurred on the Maurice Bishop Highway, involving another vehicle. The driver of the other vehicle sustained minor injuries and was treated and released from the General Hospital. William is not as fortunate as he is in critical condition. Superintendent Connaught explained the importance of wearing a seatbelt.
We have seen from all of the accidents, those serious ones that I can vividly recall, the drivers and passengers by and large were wearing seatbelts. And if you look at footage that is available on social media concerning that accident last night, you would realize that the gentleman was wearing a seatbelt. Now, his injuries could have been much more severe had he not been wearing a seatbelt. So seatbelts do save lives, and the fact that vehicles are now outfitted with airbags. Last night's accident, I was seeing that most of the airbags were deployed as a result of the impact. But seatbelts do save lives, and they hold you in place, and they prevent you from moving forward upon impact.
According to the ranking officer, the traffic department of the RGPF recorded 22 accidents between Friday to Sunday, of which the last 2 were serious.
At 11 minutes after 9 p.m. last night, the South St. George Police Station received a report of a serious accident along the Maurice Bishop Highway. This accident involved a white Suzuki Baleno and a grey Vitara vehicle. The Baleno vehicle was traveling southbound and the Vitara traveling northbound along the highway. At 25 minutes after 8 p.m. last night, there was another serious accident along the Birch Grove Public Road, and the officers attached to the Birch Grove Police Station responded to that accident. And a total of 5 persons received minor injury, were treated and discharged from hospital. The accident occurred between a blue Toyota Altiza vehicle and a Honda Fit car.
The head of the traffic department is advising drivers to be cautious when driving on the nation's road.
The accident itself, from my personal view, appeared to be one that we really can do without, because it saddens me to see that we have had an accident of this nature last night. One vehicle jumping the median and crashing into the other in the opposite direction. So it's another occasion for us to make that clarion call to motorists to exercise that level of caution, that level of consideration, and to avoid these accidents as best as possible.
The Royal Grenada Police Force last weekend recorded 28 accidents between Saturday and Monday. 27 of the 28 accidents were considered minor, with 1 deemed serious. For GBN News, I am Rina Pear reporting.
So unfortunate. We're hoping for a speedy recovery for Micah. Members of the Royal Grenada Police Force are uneasy with the recent increase in gun-related crimes that are surfacing on the island. Over the past 2 weeks, Grenada recorded 2 shooting incidents that left 2 men nursing gunshot wounds at the General Hospital. The most recent case happened on Sunday in Rose Hill, St. Patrick, where Colonel Gibbs, a security officer at the bus terminus in Grenville, St. Andrew, was shot. Head of the Community Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force, Vanny Kerwin, explains.
We are becoming very concerned now that we are seeing a few gun crimes and gun violence, which is from a law enforcement perspective, it's very concerning. Over the weekend, we have had another shooting where a gentleman got shot. We are currently investigating this incident. We have, possession some items of exhibit that we were able to retrieve from the scene. Our investigation has started. We're hoping to make some inroads into this particular matter.
Kerwin is making a clarion call to the general public to help ensure that Grenada does not follow the trend of neighboring countries in having an infestation of gun violence.
How our society becomes, or what our society becomes, depends on all of us. And we have started to see those violent crime, and so we appeal to members of the public to work with law enforcement to ensure that our country doesn't become what other neighboring countries have become over the years. And so we want to partner with anybody who would have information, anybody who can assist us in any of these 2 shootings. You do not have to give us your name, you do not have to give us any identity. You can just call us and tell us what you know, what you saw, what you heard. I will be happy to work with you.
Recommendations to farmers to increase their prices of wholesale chicken and eggs have already been made in response to Caribbean Agro-Industries' go-ahead to increase the cost of animal feed and flour. An indefinite stay on the price increase was reached by the government when Caribbean Agro first announced their increase. However, less than 2 weeks later, via a notice posted within the sales office, ADM Caribbean Agro-Industries advised that the new prices would take effect from today, Monday, February 15th. Gerard Joseph has the latest developments.
After a 10-year stay in prices, an increase in the price for local wholesale chicken and eggs is being recommended to members of the Grenada Association of Poultry Producers. The recommended increase takes effect on February 15th, together with Caribbean Agro-Industries' move to forge ahead with price increases in flour and animal feed. President of the association, Jason Phillip, tells GBN that farmers can no longer absorb the cost, with the viability of their businesses under threat.
The final straw that has broken the camel's back at this point has been the increase in feed prices effective this morning by ADM Caribbean Agro-Industries. The association has recommended a moderate price increase for the production and for the wholesale of whole chicken, fresh whole chicken, move from $5.50 per pound to $6.75 per pound. There is also a recommended price increase in the sale of eggs, which moves from $20 EC per tray of 30 to $23 for that same tray of 30 eggs.
He explains that over the last 12 months, the association has had to absorb 100% of the increased cost for transporting day-old chicks from Barbados.
Under the current circumstances, it is not a very feasible one to maintain, and as such, the association had to increase the cost of the day-old chicks being sold to the farmers. So coupled with the now increase in feeds, farmers are now seeing an increase of up to 35% in their actual production cost. And this is something that is not sustainable for a business.
The association president says it boiled down to a business decision to keep farmers' livelihoods afloat, though they understand the repercussions on Grenadians. He says the alternative of importing feed is not viable due to the monopolistic situation Caribbean Agro enjoys, despite the efforts of the association to garner other options via the Ministry of Trade.
So we are still requiring our government to step in, because we need to be able to keep the cost of production for our budding and our growing poultry sector. We need to keep that in check. If we are talking about competition and being able to compete with what is coming into the country at any form of reasonable level, we require the inputs which we use to generate the products that we have to also be priced reasonably. And we do believe that under the current circumstance, Caribbean Agro does have the ability to lower the cost of the feed. We do think that the company can still remain productive and remain profitable with lower prices. But instead of that happening, we're getting the excuses, and we're being told that due to market forces on the purchase of grains, that they have no choice but to increase.
The association had recently announced a state of emergency for the association and the local industry with the cheap importation of poultry meat from Belize. Phillips says the association is yet to receive official notice from the government or Caribbean Agro Industries about the increase. I am Gerard Joseph for GBN News.
Meanwhile, Minister for Trade and Consumer Affairs Alvin Dabrio confirmed to GBN that the government was notified of the Caribbean Agro Industries' decision to go ahead with the price increases for flour and animal feed since last week. He says the government met with officials from the company on Friday. Minister Dabrio says he responded to Caribbean Agro, stating that it is not in the best interest of the government or the country to have any form of a price increase. We get details in this report.
Government said it will be immediately seeking alternatives or options as Caribbean Agro Industries rescinds its request for a stay in prices within 2 weeks of the appeal. However, there was no time frame in which these options will become a reality. Though not hinting on what the options would be, Minister for Trade and Consumer Affairs Alvin Dabrio says they will be meeting with the farmer associations affected before giving Caribbean Agro another opportunity to reduce the prices.
If it was a case where that is what the market price is, then we wouldn't have a problem with it. It would be out of our hands. But this is a case where they have full monopoly. We do not import the flour or feed from any place else. So if you have been getting this monopoly now for about 44 years, and we still do not have a vibrant poultry industry, then something is wrong. So we would seriously be looking at, or we want to be able to be self-sufficient on chicken and eggs. At the same time, our flour prices should be competitive with that of the other islands.
He also responded to the Poultry Association's recommendation to members to increase prices for wholesale meat and eggs.
Well, at this point in time, we would not like to see any form of price increase, because there is not a monopoly on the importation of poultry products. So what you see would happen is that they would have to compete with the imports, which is what we do not want. What we want to see is a vibrant poultry industry. That is our overall objectives, and that's what we would work towards.
Minister Dabrio says the company has failed to meet the requirements of boosting the poultry industry after receiving extremely beneficial concessions. I am Gerard Joseph for GBN News.
This is News at 7. Coming up, opportunities appear from time to time. Potholes, a common occurrence throughout the country. One begs the question, is the work done to remedy them worthwhile? More in this report.
Some motorists are asking, does the government care how much it costs for vehicle parts? GBN was out on the weekend to get a glimpse of what motorists say are deteriorating road conditions, bringing about wear and tear on their vehicles. Some refer to them as chewing gum or putty patches. Why? Because as soon as the holes are patched, not long after they reopen.
Just the rubbers and the bus is like to buy rubbers often. The road badly need fixing. And now we need fixing on the road urgent.
We're talking about the road truck passing through Montmorris. Wow. This road damage your vehicle. Tires cannot last on your vehicle, especially buses. Maybe tires last about a month or so, nothing more. And then you use up more brakes, more fuel. So I think government need to do something on the road, especially on the western side.
This has motorists calling for better roads, as they say this adds an extra burden on the pockets to replace vehicle parts.
Sometimes to St. George's, the road is deplorable, Sometimes we see the patchy road and it don't last long. I don't know if it's because of the mix or because of the quantum of vehicles that on the street, and including trucks. I think that the best piece of road you have is from Perseverance to Brisbane there.
Really, not really, because sometimes they patch today and one rain and the holes could return. So you don't really want to do it.
Right now the road over the Grenada is very bad. They started to do some work about 2-3 weeks back and they stopped. The real bad place on the Grenada road did not attack us yet. Looking forward for the road to assist us in the road, basically to start finishing the paving of the road.
Currently the road condition is really deplorable. It's bad. And people not really moving as they used to. Sometimes it's really difficult for bus operator, especially those on the west presently, to make a daily living.
Bus driver, however, applauds the efforts made in having the road fixed on the route where he operates.
In the earliest, the road was in a bad condition, right? When as the trucks and things start traveling through the northeast area, because the road in Molyneux, the road was deteriorating. And it lasts for a couple months, but then I realized, well, right now the government putting in a little effort and they working on the road. It was affecting vehicles in many different ways, parts, wear and tear, everything, The time I put on a part now, by next week, so we had to change it because the holes in them so big, But for now, I realize they're working on it and it's a good thing, Yeah.
Christina John, GBN News.
Many local authors dream of the opportunity to gain international recognition for their creative works. The Dubai Expo 2020 will allow Grenadian authors to contribute to a collection of children's stories that will present Grenada's culture and traditions to the world. More in this report.
After being postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Expo 2020 will now take place in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, for a period of 6 months from October 2021 to March 2022, under the theme Connecting Minds, Creating the Future. Grenadian authors of children's books will get the opportunity to expose their writing to the rest of the world. Authors will tell the stories of Grenadian culture, traditional folktales, and in general, stories that have been passed down through generations. Grenada's theme is Grenada, enhancing its environment through the movement of its people, culture, products, and services. There will be 3 sub-themes: opportunity, mobility, and sustainability. Authors will be able to share their stories with a global audience in an international edition of children's tales from around the world that will be published digitally and in hard copy. This will consist of short stories and folk tales from nations across the globe. The stories must be no more than 800 words and suitable for children of diverse cultural backgrounds between the ages of 5 to 12. Authors who are interested in participating must provide a detailed synopsis or full text of the story, along with a completed template. In addition, stories must be in the public domain, free of copyright restrictions, and child-friendly. Local authors are urged to take advantage of this opportunity as Grenada endeavors to bring its storytelling culture to the minds and hearts of the world's younger generations. The closing date for submission of entries is the 22nd of February 2021. The government of Grenada is also coordinating the participation of local exhibitors who will display their goods and services. Trelawna Charles, GBN News.
A fantastic opportunity there. A Hermitage St. Patrick resident was arrested and charged on 6 counts each of money laundering and stealing by reason of employment, cash amounting to $130,651.27 from a local pharmacy. Doria Benjamin was charged by officers attached to the Criminal Investigation Department on Friday, the 12th of February, 2021. She was granted bail in the amounts of $10,000 and $70,000 and is due to appear at the St. George's Magistrates Court on February 24th, 2021. In an unrelated matter, Emerald Creedland, a 35-year-old farmer of Malmont, St. David, was arrested and charged by detectives attached to the Criminal Investigation Department, St. David, on 4 counts of rape committed against a minor. He was granted bail in the amount of $25,000 and is due to appear in court on April 13th, 2021. Christopher Brathwaite, a 40-year-old bus conductor residing at Hope St. Andrew, was also arrested and charged on 4 counts of sexual intercourse with a minor. He was granted bail in the amount of $40,000 with 2 sureties and is scheduled to appear in court on May 10th, 2021. And now we turn our attention to what has been creating a buzz on social media. Trelana Charles has been looking around the platforms.
This is Social Buzz, where we shine a light on the thoughts and concerns of our online audience. The damage done to the Mount Craven and Mount Rodney areas by the sea as a result of the Breakwater project has been a hot topic for weeks. While many Grenadians associate the start of the destruction with the completion of the Breakwater project, Minister for Climate Resilience and the Environment, Simon Steele, made this comment.
The creation of that breakwater was to protect the community at that end of the bay. There is no direct evidence to say that putting that breakwater in has caused the effect higher up. That is unproven, certainly at this stage. What we do know is the entire bay is under threat, and this is a dynamic thing. So actions were taken to protect, for the immediate protection of households, of businesses in that area.
This did not go over well with our online audience, who were quick to give their opinions on the statement. Alistair commented, "All lies. This was the end result of the Breakwater project. Stop the lies, please." Jose added, "When politicians have nothing positive to say, please keep their mouths shut, because that's the most nonsense I have ever heard. The coastal area in Sates was never like that until the Breakwater project came. This minister doesn't know what he's talking about. Plus, no EIA ever happened." Andrea said, "It's unproven. Yeah, you might have a different situation had the EIA been done before said project. Too much cat before the horse." Another individual said, "I speak and understand the same language as Mr. Steele, but I have a hard time believing his sentiments there. Prior to the Breakwater project, has there been any erosion, loss of homes, etc.? What measures have the government taken to protect the homes on the coastline? Some people can't help but lie their way out of everything, rather than take responsibility for failures." That's it for tonight's Social Buzz. If you would like to have your thoughts and concerns shared, be sure to comment on GBN's Facebook page.
From the thought process to the visual impact, let's take a peek through the GBN ISAW lens.
Tonight, our ISAW reporter expressed disappointment at an unsightly mound of garbage at the Carnage in St. George. Our submission was accompanied with this message, and I quote, "We often hear the claim poor, struggling people are not afforded the chance to make an honest living. But this is how one vendor chose to dispose of refuse after Saturday's sale on the Carnage." End of quote. Tell us ways you think we can keep our surroundings clean when you send us your photo and video submissions via WhatsApp on 405-3052 or our other social media platforms.
every action we take impacts the lives of others around us. The Grenada Community Partnership Initiative, GCPI, has been working with Grenadian organizations to impact communities directly. Giving back to communities we serve is fundamental to the way we do business. And every year, more lives are touched across Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. In education, sports, health, infrastructure, social services, and beyond.
Imagine your day without having to wait in line, without having to write at every store, without touching the pen everyone else used, having your info exposed to everyone. Sounds great, huh? Well, it's possible. Here is TEDA. With TEDA, you download once, register once, and just scan to check in everywhere. No hassle, no forms, no hold up. Simple and easy. TEDA lets you explore, discover new places, new products, and new experiences. What are you waiting for? Get TEDA for free from your app store today and enjoy contactless convenience.
I'm reaching my dreams with GOT. They're the ones for me. I'm reaching my dreams with GOT. They're the ones for me. Since 1983, they've been serving the country, and we like all their financing, giving the people what they want, what they need, what they love. Come and join the family that's here for you all the way, from birth to graduation, your first job to your home and your card through your golden years.
The GT Credit Union has been actively supporting nation building through its many sponsorships and programs, including Financial Literacy Quiz, Pass the Torch Calypso Program, Junior Cooperatives in Secondary Schools, CPEA, and the TAMCC Grants. The credit union has helped many people make their dreams come true. Let them help you with yours. You don't have to be a teacher to be a member. So what are you waiting for?
GUT Credit Union, it's where you belong.
Running low on groceries? Why not visit realvalueiga.com and experience our new online shopping platform? Place your order, then go out and enjoy your day to spend more time with friends and family. Delivery available within select locations or in-store pickup available. Sounds simple, right? It is. Stress less, live more with Real Value IGA online store, where good food begins.
Welcome back to Good Morning Grenada, 19 and a half after the hour of 7 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us. Those of you who are just getting out of bed and just tuning in, happy to have you. And those of you who stuck with us, thank you so much. Bless up all your whole selves. It is another terrific Tuesday. This morning is Talk the Things Tuesday, but Talk the Things with a guest. This morning I have joining me virtually is the chairman of the Grenada Movement and economist, Dr. Patrick Antoine. And this morning we are talking the ripple effects of the increase in prices of flour and animal feed as announced by Caribbean Agro, and it took effect yesterday, Monday, February 15th. Good morning, Dr. Antoine.
Good morning to you and to all your wonderful listeners in Grenada and the diaspora.
Thank you for joining us. I know I got you out of bed. Happy that you're able to accommodate.
It's always a pleasure to join you.
Thank you very much. So let's get into it. Let's talk the things. Yesterday, increase in prices took effect in relation to the products of the Caribbean Agro, flour, animal feed, and while the wholesale purchasers may be the ones to directly feel the effect, I know there will be trickle-down effects. So let's first of all deal with why this is happening and why it is happening now. This increase, which ranges in from about, I believe it's 6% to 16% increases for the different products. Why is this happening now in these COVIDious times?
Well, thank you. I think what we are seeing is, in fact, the market-induced effects of COVID in various ways. The first way is that countries such as China are claiming that they have drawn down on their stocks soya, corn, and in some instances wheat, but particularly soya and corn, which are big ingredients in feed during the last 12 months. And what they're doing now is building back their stock. So they're buying more. And with their increased purchasing, the markets become, if you wish, shorted, and the price is going up. So you have less supplies available for the rest of us to purchase. And that is pushing prices up. So that is one big reason. The second one is, of course, because more supplies are going into China. Many are claiming that you have more containers going into China that are coming out. And that's what we call in economics, it's contriving a shortage. There's no real shortage, but there's just an inconsistency in terms of timing with all of the containers and so on going into a lot of the containers going into China, more going in that's coming out. I think the third reason is that you are seeing some movement up in shipping prices as well. And the fourth one is that it is claimed that there's some weather-induced effects taking place in some countries, such as the countries in South America. All of that is leading to between a 40 and 60% increase in corn and soya. That increase is being felt around the world. In the Caribbean, for instance, in Trinidad and Tobago, many of the entities are not giving you prices going forward. You can't forward buy anymore. You can't buy, 1,000 bags of feed to be delivered 3 months from now because they're concerned about where the prices will go. And what's happened is that many firms, enable mills, have been able to not pass on the increase yet because they're using from the old stock. But many of them, as the new stock comes into manufacture, are forced to use it. So that is really where the market is now. It's very turbulent, and unfortunately, there is no good news. There is an expectation that this could get worse, depending on what happens with the Chinese purchasing patterns, and hopefully other countries don't begin doing the same thing to mitigate against further price increases later. So we're really in the Caribbean in a very difficult spot.
With the price increases going into effect, what now would be taking place from the wholesale purchasers to the consumers? What can we expect will take place as we continue to move along?
Well, certainly for consumers, this is not good news. Any increase in prices at this time in any country, let me be very clear, but particularly in countries where we have such a large vulnerable section of the population, it's terrible. And of course, for a basic item such as flour, the 6% increase you spoke about, perhaps to my mind, that's going to settle at around 10, looking at what I see happening regionally as we monitor prices. That's going to settle around 10. I'm looking at perhaps an increase up to 10%, depending on what's happening with the shipments coming. Hopefully it doesn't go above that. So it's terrible news for consumers. It's terrible news for consumers as well, because the feed prices, as we've heard in Grenada and other places, will go up, and that's going to be passed on. Depending on the extent of the increase, it is not going to be possible for farmers and producers and processors to absorb all of it, and they'll pass on all, some, and in some cases, let me be very frank, in some cases, more than the increase in feed prices would have been justified will also be passed on. So there's need for monitoring at this time. But the truth is that many farmers in our country are constrained to pass on more because the market itself regulates that, because you do have imports. So for the farmers, it's not going to be good news, because as prices goes up, you know what happens to demand. Demand comes down. The price goes up, you buy less. So they're going to be faced with a little bit of a challenge. And I think that has to be looked at carefully, because depending on where farmers are in Grenada, because in Grenada, I now understand that we have a different, let us just say, there is no monolithic model of production anymore. You have some, let's call it bigger, more capitalized farms and processors. And then you have some subsistence, small farmers. Depending on what happens, you're going to have the industry shaking itself out, meaning that some people are going to find it difficult to continue producing poultry, because as prices goes up, if some people can sustain that and not pass it on, they will. Those that can't will be forced to do so. And then there's a minimum volume of chickens that you need to produce. You can't, if you have, for instance, a loan of to repay $1,500 a month, it may mean that you need to have at least, 300 to 500 birds. Once that starts going down to 250 birds, you have a problem. You can't carry the loan. So it is better for you in that instance to not produce, because by producing and spending, you're actually going to be spending more than you're getting back. So we have to look at that to make sure that our small and vulnerable producers, the smaller farmers, are able to stay in production, particularly now where unemployment is an issue. So this is a real issue that is not just an agriculture issue. This is a deep issue that the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Trade needs to get involved with.
With the increases, I saw a concern on social media yesterday. Somebody was saying the increase in animal feed is 6%, but for the poultry farmers, the increase in the cost of a chicken per pound has gone up by over 20%. And they were wondering, if it's just 6%, why the consumers now have to pay a 20% increase. How would you explain, maybe, or how you think that is necessary?
I couldn't explain it without having an understanding of what their costs were. I'm not sure how much cost they were carrying that they hadn't passed on before. It's not just feed, but it's primarily feed, because feed is about 50% of the sort of cost of production, because poultry is a straight conversion thing. Pounds of feed to pounds of meat. If you're efficient, there's a conversion ratio. So I'm not sure how much cost they would have been carrying before, but that has to be looked at as well. That's why I said earlier, it depends on whether in fact producers maintain the same percentage increase, unless if you can essentially not pass on some cost or more, where in fact you use this as an opportunity to claw back some costs that you hadn't covered before. So I think all of these factors need to be looked at. And this is where both some monitoring must take place, but also the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Trade and Finance would have needed to have gotten involved, to my mind, in ensuring that we have a model for the poultry sector, not one single type of farm. As when I say a model, I mean that we understand what is best practice and we push farmers there. Because prices in Grenada for poultry meat perhaps are among the highest in the region, right? And not close by a long way in some instances for some parts. Again, it speaks to the need for a policy and the need for us to put that in place as part of what we're doing now. That has to be put in the mix.
Is there anything we can do now to help us get through this time? Us as in Caribbean Agro, wholesalers, consumers, anything that can be done?
Well, I think certainly the government, from the standpoint of Caribbean Agro, can look at what are the areas in which they can possibly reduce the taxation, the level of taxes. And I'm acknowledging very openly, no naivety here, that Caribbean Agro already receives benefits from substantial concessions. But there are some areas that they may be able to look at, particularly for flour, and for certain parts of the chicken that you want to be able to sustain low cost, low margins for, to the benefit of the population, because poultry is, of course, the most readily accessible form of protein. And where you have food and nutrition insecurity, as we do have, you want to make sure that people can continue accessing, for instance, back and neck, perhaps wings and whatever else the experts deem to be the appropriate cuts that they want to give access to. So once they do that, then I think the government would be in a position to say, okay, let me see how I can give something that will help to keep Caribbean Agro's prices down, but let me also work with farmers so that they become more efficient. Now, it sounds that this is a textbook sort of proposition when I talk about the farmers. But the truth is that the poultry sector needs to be incorporated in a comprehensive plan with action, urgent action, to increase their productivity, to increase their efficiency, and also a plan that links now the space that we have. One of the things that we were able to do is to negotiate Grenada's WTO maximum rate, the maximum you can charge on poultry, from 30% to 100. Grenada has a 30% rate on poultry meat in terms of the duty. Other countries have it a little lower in the OECS, but many countries in the MDCs, Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, Guyana, their rate is higher. You don't just want to push up a rate, which will, of course, only increase in efficiency, but you may want to push the rate up if you're able to work with the farmers so that they become more efficient. So you have two things happening. You give them some more protection, but it's almost a quid pro quo. You're giving them protection, but you're also giving them the technical support so that they can become more efficient. So for instance, I think that's going to be very important. And so I think that's certainly something we need to do, because the poultry sector will not go away. It is still and will continue for some time to be the cheapest form of protein. We are going to have people in Grenada, particularly now with the investments we've seen recently in two larger farmer processing type operations. They're going to be there. We now need to work with them. So we have what I'd want to call a comprehensive, well thought out, joined up poultry policy. Not just on paper, but you want to actually put it into action and make it part of your economic strategy for the development of the country. So that needs to be done. In the short run, if I were to advise on this matter, I would say, let us see how we can mitigate the prices on flour. And I can do that because the Caribbean Agro pays a business tax. And there's some items, not flour, but some other items that they pay VAT on. I may want to use that space in the short run to mitigate, to bring down, to hold prices where they are for flour. For the other cuts, I may want to work with the farmers to make sure that the prices that they pass on are reasonable. I'd want to work with the farmers to make sure that I can mitigate their prices too, but I'd want to work with Caribbean Agro, again, in trying to mitigate the pass-on effect of these prices. But I want to be very clear in saying that where you have adverse shocks and adverse movements in international prices, there's very, very little room for government. There is some room, but there's not a lot of room. And I think we need to be blunt about this. Where I think government certainly can play a role, though, is putting the policy in place. So as we look forward, we are better able to absorb these shocks because we become more efficient. That's really the very difficult task now, because we are doing this as usual in the middle of a crisis. We always seem to be acting when there is a crisis. But these crises, unfortunately, are not things that are going to go away. So it is never too late to take the action you need to take, even though you're in a crisis, because you know there'll be another one. We had a massive one in 2007, 2008, when prices went through the roof, right? And Grenada made a lot of sacrifices then to hold prices down. We have another one now, and we need to make sure that we use this moment and not lose it to do what we need to do to develop the poultry sector. Massive, important sector for our country.
I appreciate that you mentioned the role government can play in this process, because I was going to ask, because when these things happen, one of the comments that you hear is government should do this and government should do this and government needs to do that. Can they play any role in getting Caribbean Agro to hold off again? Because they've already done so. They held off the increase for 2 weeks, but now I guess water over flour, literally.
Yes, two things. I think that Caribbean Agro, because of my indication that if they were using from old stock or some of the new stock, so you may have started using some of the new stock, you can perhaps try to absorb that by sort of averaging or flattening prices. So you're not selling all, but you're kind of over the month, you're going to be selling some from the new stock, some from the old stock. I'm talking here, for those just joining you, about the soya and corn, and certainly wheat that they would have been using in more recent production. The extent to which you can expect a mill or an enterprise to do that is limited, because then they're going to be underwater, so to speak, because they're going to be losing money on every single run. And in these COVIDious times, it is not going to be easy for them to claw that back. So yes, I believe there's room for dialogue. But again, I think we need to have the dialogue recognizing what is the limits of each party. So the limits of the government is that the government is in a terrible place in terms of revenue. The government is also in a terrible place in terms of not knowing what the runway is going to be like before we can take off, yeah? Whether it's going to be another year or 6 months, it's a difficult time. I accept that. So recognizing that there are limits to which each party can move, the dialogue can take place. I did mention the business tax, but that can't be a permanent state of affairs. It can be a short-run measure. I mentioned the VAT. It can be a short-run measure. I'm also going to mention now that the government can, in fact, take the duties up. But I did say, because I said the duty in Grenada was 30%, among the lowest in the region, it's certainly not the lowest in the OECS, but the OECS doesn't have a viable poultry sector. Grenada is, in fact, in that regard, a potential bright spot. Let me say it again. Grenada, in that regard, is a potential bright spot for the poultry sector. You've had a lot of heartbreak in poultry, not just in Grenada before, and I'm happy that the private sector has now taken up that and they're carrying the risk, but in other countries as well. So you want to encourage the sector. The way that we encourage it has to be with this comprehensive policy. So the government in the short run, because I now understand that they're likely to be, if you have birds blossom on the ground, you can't send them back in the shell, you know? So you have to see that cycle out. So it is quite possible that if prices go up and demand goes down, you're going to have a glut, right? You're going to have more supply than there are people to purchase the poultry. Grenada's problem too is the cost of electricity. I can't store it seamlessly. In Trinidad, the cost of electricity is, 5 cents, per kilowatt. In Grenada, it's, perhaps nearly 40. So that the cost of storage is a heavy cost. So you have limited options. So in the short run, because the government will recognize that there are limited options, the government may, as a short run measure, decide to push up the duty so that the cost of imported product goes up when it lands. Again, the issue there is that you're not really solving the problem. What you're doing is that you're displacing some imports with domestic production. But the effect that you're having is that unless you do more, you're pushing up the cost anyway, and consumers' demand will fall anyway. So that there's a limited window within which you can do that. So yes, government can act, but government action, we say, is going to be short-lived unless more is done to get the poultry industry efficient. And I believe it's a good time for all the parties to sit and have a good, solid sit-down on how we're going to support the sector as an emergency measure. And part of that emergency measure could be the increase in duty. That's part of it. But there are other parts, some urgent technical assistance to see how we move with trying to deal with the issue of efficiency, some urgent action on how we reduce the cost of borrowing. Let me repeat that one. How we reduce the cost of borrowing. Are there actions that we can take now? Because most of these guys are running on borrowed capital. So that in the short run, their costs come down based on the cost of borrowing. The cost of borrowing might be 6% or 7%. If we can bring the cost of borrowing down with some government support to 4.5 to 5%, it gives them a little room so that their cost per pound goes down. And therefore, what you have is that you have a trade-off where you're not going to have to increase the cost per pound of meat because of the feed impact as much as you would have otherwise, because your cost of borrowing is pulling that cost down. So those are things we can do, and that's a short-term action that the government can take now. If they sit with the banks, if they sit with GDB, that's something we can do. So that, yes, without putting my mind to it in terms of all the solutions, an emergency sit-down is necessary. And these short-term measures will make an impact in terms of keeping prices down But we need at the end of this discussion to talk about how we make farmers more efficient and how we make government policy now respond to the needs of the farming community. That's a very serious discussion that still needs to take place.
Let's hope it takes place sooner rather than later. Let's take a very quick break, Dr. Antoine, and then we're going to come back and continue. There are maybe about 2 questions on the WhatsApp that we'll get to on the other side of the break. This is a special Good Morning Grenada, Good Morning Point. We'll be right back.
Ultratech gasoline and diesel, available only at Rubis stations.
Do you know what time it is? You guessed right, it's detox time again. At Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center and Natural Health Store. Purchase our 7-day cleansing pack for only $500. Includes everything you need for a complete total body cleanse. Cleanse your blood, kidney, liver, and colon. This cleanse will help you lighten up and get rid of the excess. Also available are our special product Detox Combo Pack for only $100. Try our single detox products starting from $40. Check us out now. Belmont St. George's, close to the Fall Edge area, or call us on 231-6642, 449-7753, or 418-7115. Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. Detox, your way to health.
As a sales agent, I do my best and I'm pretty good at my job. As a son, I show mad love for my mom. I'm the cool uncle. There's a babysitter whenever my sister needs me. I'm in love and I make my boyfriend very happy. But because of the law, none of that matters if I'm gay.
Speak out against the discrimination of Grenadians based on sexual orientation. Support the repeal of Section 431. A message from ECAID. For more information, visit www.ecequality.org.
Will you see all of me?
Welcome back to Good Morning Grenada. We're speaking with economist and chairman of the Grenada Movement, Dr. Patrick Antoine, looking at the effects of the increase in prices of flour and animal feed, which took effect yesterday by Caribbean Agro Industries. Dr. Antoine, a few weeks ago in a sitting of the Senate, the president, Senator Chester Humphrey, he expressed concern about importation of these products. The concern he had was that, because sometimes when these things happen, we look at getting it cheaper from neighboring countries. So maybe we can get cheaper feed from, let's say, Blossom Island. And the importation, he was looking at the effect long-term importation can have on the local production and Caribbean agro. Is this a concern that we should consider, or may importation be the direction to go? Importation of cheaper feed be the direction to go?
Well, I'm not sure what position he took on Caribbean agro. My own view is this. We are fast coming. Let me tell you the problem. First of all, in 30 seconds, the problem is that we have overcapitalization in terms of feed and flour mills in the Eastern Caribbean, which means that we have more mills than we have markets, right? That is what technically what we're talking about. If you look at the built-in capacity of the mills, what they can produce, and you look at what they're producing, in many instances, many of them are at 60, 65%. So you have one in St. Lucia, you have one in Grenada, you have one in St. Vincent, right? The second problem is that we still have imports coming in from the MDCs. This is from Trinidad, Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica. Although we've put a mechanism in place, it's not, the governments have to decide why they're not enforcing it. Let me just bluntly put it that way. The governments have to decide why they're not enforcing it, because my understanding is that less in Grenada, but certainly in the other countries that don't have mills, where Grenada should be sending its product, etc., that imports are still taking place. What that means is, Blossom, it means that the mill is producing less than it needs to produce. And when the mill produces less, the cost per unit of production goes up. So that that then becomes the issue. So for me, I think the issue is for us to fix that problem. In terms of importation, there comes a point at which we have to ask ourselves, if we were to follow the dictum that we should take it from wherever it's cheapest, what are we going to be left with? Because the truth is that you can find almost everything that's produced at home cheaper somewhere else. But if you're going to have an economy, economic management is about how you sustain economic activity in your own space. And I think, for me, certainly the medium term in our country speaks to trying to maintain some manufacturing and industrial capacity, not at all costs. But I think certainly that is going to be something that we need to do. I'm not convinced either that we'd be better off if we just depended on imports. One of the beautiful things about Caribbean Agro is that where we've had crises, for instance, in 2007, 2008, yes, you can get the raw material in more expensively, but you know that Caribbean Agro would be there to actually continue the actual production. So we weren't fighting for feed and fighting for flour. We were fighting for raw material. And I think that's sort of a buffer that we need to maintain as well. So my view is that we need to do all we can to make sure that our operations are as efficient as possible, but we need to sustain them as part of our economic development model going forward. We shouldn't, because we can get it cheaper elsewhere, fashion a policy or adopt the taste for cheap foreign products, because that's to my mind the antithesis of what economic development in our country is all about.
A question on the WhatsApp, a comment. I think our leaders, the government, needs to start standing up for Grenadians by giving them a tax break on the VAT, especially for those who purchase flour and the chicken feed, and have price control to monitor the price from going up. Tax break or on VAT?
I agree with that as one of the short-term measures I mentioned earlier, that the government needs to look at that. I believe that certainly for basic items such as flour and poultry, there is an overwhelming economic reason that can be made, argument that can be made for these tax breaks as a short-term measure. Where the flour is concerned, that may also be something that the government looks at beyond the short term, to the extent that the VAT is in fact applied on that type of flour, and also where the feed is concerned, anything else that we can do on the feed. So I think that is certainly a very, very good recommendation that falls well within what I'm suggesting. But I keep making the point. Today for you, tomorrow for me. Government can't do this for everybody, and it can't do it in perpetuity. So it has to look at its basic list, around which there has to be the assumption that there's societal consensus, that this list of basic items is the list that we're going to do everything that we can continue to sustain affordability by the Grenadian population. Because we do have hunger in our population. We do have people who suffer from food inaccessibility. And these price increases just makes it worse. Finally, for me, the government can also purchase. It's not new. The government itself can purchase some of these items, and it can use it as part of its basic network of, let us call it, social assistance, right? So again, where you have a glut, again, the emergency meeting I'm talking about, whether it's meeting at the mines on Zoom or physical meeting, it's important that the ideas meet. Government can purchase, right, where I expect that there's going to be a pullback in consumption. The government can purchase some of these items, only domestic items, poultry, etc. And it can give it as part of its social assistance program. to needy families. Again, how they do this with the mechanisms, I think, need to be monitored to make sure that we're really meeting the objectives. I speak very gently on these matters because we are talking policy, that it meets the objectives of giving it to those who need it most. But that's another measure the government can do as a short-term measure. No, they can't do all of this at the same time. They're going to have to see which of these is most viable for us to institute, right? And over what period we want to institute. They may do some now, they may stop those and then do other measures later. But by the grace of God, they need to sit down so that we can now get the story right, so that we can put poultry on a sustainable trajectory.
A question on Facebook. The Grenada government has a great relationship with China. With that relationship, what negotiations can government make to get us a deal for our farmers? Or what would you do if you were sent to make that deal?
Let me just say that China is a sovereign state. And to answer the question very specifically, my interest and China's interest are the same where food security is concerned. China wants to ensure that it has food security for its people. We want to make sure we have food security and supplies security. That's why you build up inventories for all people. I wouldn't have a discussion with China on this matter outside of, say, a discussion on technology, incubators, how do I make my plants more efficient, etc. That's that discussion. On the feed side, the discussion that I would want to have is a discussion with the Caribbean mills about how do we put mechanisms in place to mitigate price increases at times like this, on the basis that when prices fall, we also help you carry. I've made that point before. So when prices are low, we will allow you, as it were, to maintain prices a little higher than when prices are low. But when prices are high, let's put a buffer mechanism in place. It's not hypothetical. So that when the price goes up and you have to increase that by 10%, the increase may be 2 or 3. That's a discussion I would have with my Caribbean mills, in this case with the Caribbean Agro. And the third discussion we need to have is a discussion with ourselves. Are there things that we can be doing, growing? Are there things that we can be collaborating with others on so that we are not subject to these pernicious price increases when they happen? Not theoretical. We have all the land in Guyana. We have land in Suriname. We have land in Belize. And by the grace of God, we have a lot of fallow land in Grenada. We may not be able to grow wheat. But let me tell you that people are actually growing a lot of these tropical grains now that they're actually bringing in to feed. And so we are only constrained by our imagination. So what's happening in CARICOM is that there's now a big discussion about growing agricultural raw material for feed. And I think we need to become part of that discussion. I know at the level of a high level in CARICOM heads, that's certainly been something that's been on the agenda. I think at times like this, we're called upon to engage that discussion seriously and to try now to use the political will to push for resources in that direction too. Growing grain, if you have the right yields, would be as profitable as essentially processing poultry. But we also need to create the environment for that. So the short answer is that I wouldn't have a discussion with China on that. I would have a discussion with my mills, my Caribbean Agro. I would develop a mechanism because this is going to happen again and again and again, where I can mitigate it. And I would also put some strictures in place in terms of how we monitor those prices. China will act in China's interest, certainly when it comes to food security. That's why they're buying it up. And don't be surprised if at some stage later, and I speak as an economist, nothing else, right? If China has more than enough supplies, then they essentially load some off on the world market and the prices fall, right? So that's really how it works. And then we can get a lot more complex because this also goes to what we call, in agriculture, emergency stockpiling. and whether it should be allowed and shouldn't be allowed. And once you stockpile, can you then offload? And, we certainly would benefit if it's offloaded. But when we benefit and Caribbean Agro benefits, we want to make sure that when prices goes back up, on the other side of the spectrum, we also benefit by not having the price increases that we're seeing. These are things that we need now to engage in a modern, increasingly complex commercial sector. And that's what I would do. So this is a discussion for Caribbean Agro and the parent company, or a discussion for myself and other millers within the region in putting this mechanism in place.
Dr. Antoine, thank you so much. We've quickly run out of time. And as somebody on the WhatsApp says, thank you very much. We have learned a wealth of information, and it has really put this situation into context for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and best of luck to the farmers. My heart is with the consumers, and it is not an easy time to be formulating government policy, but it's certainly something that must be done. So, meeting of the minds, my last word, meeting of the minds.
Meeting of the minds. Let's hope they hear it and they actually take your advice into consideration. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
That was Chairman of the Grenada Movement and economist Dr. Patrick Antoine shedding some light for us, and hopefully it was an educational session for you. I know it was for me, as we deal with the rippling effects of the increase in price of flour and animal feed. Definitely the consumers will feel it as well. That's the end of the televised portion of Good Morning Grenada. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, coming up at 9, there is the joint sitting of Parliament as parliamentarians come together and celebrate the life of the late Honorable Elvin Nimrod, a former minister, government minister, and former deputy prime minister. Have yourselves a safe and productive Tuesday. We now join the BBC for the 8 a.m. newscast. Have yourselves a good one.
Do you know what time it is? You guessed right, it's detox time again. At Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. Purchase our 7-day cleansing pack for only $500. Includes everything you need for a complete total body cleanse. Cleanse your blood, kidney, liver, and colon. This cleanse will help you lighten up and get rid of the excess. Also available are our special product Detox Combo Pack for only $100. Try our single detox products starting from $40. Check us out now. Belmont St. George's, close to the Fall Edge area, or call us on 2